This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Still waiting in line? Again? That's time you'll never get back. Save time and money with Stamps.com. Over 4 million businesses have skipped the line with Stamps.com. Join them to save up to 90% off carrier rates from your computer or phone right now. Print postage for certified mail, registered mail, and packages in seconds. Then schedule a pickup right from your home or office. For a limited time, go to Stamps.com and use code PODCAST for a free welcome gift. Taxes and fees apply.
Precipitating your own disaster. The unfortunate sometimes draw misfortune on themselves. They will also draw it on you. Associate with the happy and the fortunate instead. What do you think, John?
Well, I think let's first clarify that we're not talking about people who are just unhappy or unhappy for a reason or unlucky, something unlucky happens to them. We're talking about the perpetually unhappy and unlucky. And I could think of many different people throughout my life who I have known who have been perpetually unhappy or unlucky.
Charlie Brown.
Charlie Brown is, I guess, a good, he's like Pigpen, but the dirt isn't following him. It's being unlucky and being unhappy.
I think Pigpen even got some action. It's just Charlie Brown never seemed to catch a break, man. Poor kid, you'd get rocks in his bag on Halloween, and Lucy would always pull that football away from him.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he just didn't learn from it, but I really feel that it says here, you may feel like you're helping the drowning man, but you're only precipitating your own disaster. If you've ever gone through swimming lessons, they say never try to help a drowning person, because if they're if they're frantic, they could actually drown you in the process. So you have to be really, really careful with helping someone who's drowning. But I also think it goes a little bit further than that, and that you can't make other people happy. You certainly cannot make other people lucky. You have to either create your own luck, and you have to create your own happiness. Another person will never make someone else happy in the long run. That happiness needs to come from within.
I agree. I didn't want to interrupt your flow of ideas there, but when you were talking about the drowning person, when I was in the Air Force, I had to go through one of the trainings I went through was water survival. And what they do is they have this pool, you do it in a pool, but they have this mock-up of an airplane, and they shut off all the lights in the building and the plane. And 30 people or whatever it is that's in the class has to evacuate the plane. And you have these, inflatable things, life preserver units that are supposed to automatically inflate, but they have one that's sabotaged. So of course one side doesn't inflate, and then they secretly put a guy, one of the instructors, pretending he's drowning, and everyone has to work together to try to rescue that guy, because if someone, like you said, if someone grabs a drowning guy, they're going to pull you under. So we had to form a chain and work together as a team and link arms, and that's how we would pull the guy out. It just made me think of that. I just thought that would be an interesting point.
Yeah, I mean, I think that applies. And like I said, you need to be careful in that situation. And you were trained to be careful, to work as a team, to form a chain and help save that person. We're not saying you shouldn't save people. And if people are unhappy or unlucky, that you shouldn't empathize with them or care about them. We're not saying don't care.
Right. It's not like you see some homeless guy in the street and you're like, oh, well, it sucks to be him. That's a different situation. This is for the guys that, I know I've had those people at my work before where, You see him in the morning, you're, hey, what's up? How you doing? Oh, the day sucks, man. This place, everything, blah, blah. Everything's a complaint. Everything's just like negative, negative, negative. Like the negative Nancy that just brings you down. You're like, all right, Debbie Downer, stop, stop raining on my parade. So that's what I think it's really talking about.
And you can't change people like that.
No.
That change needs to come from within, and only Debbie Downer can become Fun Debbie again. I couldn't think of a good nickname that was kid friendly.
We used to have a guy. We used to have a guy at our work that this is my old job, and we used to call him Eeyore. Remember Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh?
Yeah.
And that's exactly how he was. He was like, "Oh man, this boss wants me to do this," and he was just like, and we secretly called him Eeyore. It was funny.
Well, in the transgression of the law, which don't you have a little?
Man, you got to prepare me for these things, man.
Transgression of the law.
Okay. Talks about Marie Gilbert, who was born in Limerick, Ireland in 1818. And
I bet she's good at limericks.
And she took the name, she went to Paris in the 1840s to make her fortune as a dancer and performer. And she went by the name of Lola Montez. And I kept on thinking as I was reading this, maybe that, that Barry, and this is, people are not going to think the same about me when I bring up a Barry Manilow song, but her name was Lola. She was a showgirl. It kind of made me think maybe this is that Lola, because it did not end very well for Lola.
I was thinking of the Kinks. Doesn't the Kinks have Lola?
Oh yeah,
Lola. That's what I was thinking of when I was reading it.
It was a guy,
right?
Yeah, I guess. Well, not very lucky if you mess with Lola. Don't mess with Lola. But so Lola went to Paris in the 1840s. By 1845, her career was just in the dumps, and in order to survive, she became a courtesan.
Or a hooker. Is that like a hooker?
Yeah, that's a hooker. And she quickly became one of the most successful
ladyboys.
Ladyboy. And so she's a courtesan, and she wanted to salvage her dancing career. So she set up circumstances to meet Alexandre Dujardin. You all know I'm terrible at names. He was the owner of the newspaper with the largest circulation in France, and he was also the newspaper's drama critic. So Lola saw him as being, the only way that she could revive her career. So she decided to woo him and conquer him, as it said in the book.
And didn't she set up an accident, or like a riding accident on a horse?
Yes, she had a quote unquote accident on a horse. Met him. They started dating. It got very serious, and in the end, Alexander was killed in a duel because he did not learn law number 9 and not to argue with people, and he argued with the wrong person, and that person was one of the greatest duelers. Duelers, is that even a word?
Yeah, he was a great pistol shot, according to the book.
So he was shot and killed, which ended the life. But Lola kept on going. So she moved to Munich, and she decided to woo and conquer King Ludwig of Bavaria.
That's like Fatal Attraction.
Yeah. So and I thought, wow, this lady's a class act. She recognized that the king had a fondness for good-looking women, and she kind of forced her way into the court one day, and again accidentally showed her breasts, ripped her dress, and let her breasts fly out. And she was able to talk to the king that way. And apparently, I think, 55 days later, she was making her debut on stage.
Yeah, and when you have women running to you, like ripping open their shirts and their breasts flop out by accident. Oh, well, excuse me. How did that happen? Pardon me.
So, Ludwig was really bewitched by Lola. And even though her performances were terrible, he did many, many things for her. I think he naturalized her, and he was very much a loved king, but she was such a jerk that the population, his subjects, started to dislike the king. And finally he had enough. And he asked her to leave. She left, but without first getting a nice big check from him. And within the next year, he was out of, he abdicated the throne, all because of Lola. And I thought it was saying they were on the grip of civil war, and students everywhere were chanting, "Rus mit Lola." I love that part of the book.
Which basically means she's a guy. Is that what they were saying?
No, it means out with Lola, I believe.
Yeah. Lola.
Lola. I had a friend by the name of Ted in high school. He's passed on.
Oh, so yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Same story. He was a security guard on Fort Lauderdale Strip back in the day when Fort Lauderdale Strip was the place to be.
Back when we were driving as 16-year-olds with the Merry Monk?
Just a little bit after that, I think. Or maybe it was around that time.
In our PA system?
Yeah. Fort Lauderdale Strip was a wild place. And he got called up to this room one night. The guest was just hysterical. And it turned out that this guy picked up a girl named Lola on the strip. And they went back up to the hotel room and started messing around. And that's when he discovered that Lola had a stick shift. and I think he ended up getting thrown out of the hotel. But Ted had always had stories like that.
Yeah, I can imagine working at the Fort Lauderdale. I mean, just driving down the street and, cruising, you had stories. I can imagine working there all the time. It's like when I was a cab driver in Fort Lauderdale in Hollywood, it was just one crazy thing after another. Everything from I've had Yngwie Malmsteen, the world's supposedly greatest guitarist, hop in my car, and then he took me to his house, and he had his girlfriend. I think I told this story before on the show, but he had his girlfriend with him. He goes, "Hey, I'm hungry." I took him to a restaurant. He bought me something to eat. And then I dropped him off at, not a mansion, but it was a pretty big house. And he was like, "Hey, you want to come in and see my Ferrari?" And he jumps in his Ferrari and he turns it on. Like, "Okay, yeah, man. I'm thinking I'm going to get a big tip or something." And, he still hadn't paid me. And then he starts playing his guitar, which was actually pretty neat. But meanwhile, his girlfriend's like, "Yngwie, come on." She wanted to go to bed. And I just started feeling kind of weird. And at the time I had a heavy metal radio show. So I think I just took his information and was like, "All right, man, I'll hook up with you later." But I can't even remember if I charged him for the ride. I can't remember. But at him, Flavor Flav, I had some lesbians go down on each other in the backseat of my car. That kind of fun stuff.
Yeah, we have lots of these stories, people. But getting back to Lola, that was not the end. After she left King Ludwig, she kept on, hooking up with different men. And in fact, what we did not say is that she had actually married an Englishman when she was 18 and never got divorced. So with one of the guys, they found out that she was a bigamist and, threatened to arrest her, or came to arrest her if she had to leave the country. So it seemed like just unluckiness
she
and bad times followed her.
Yeah, she left a trail of broken men behind her. And
the man who wrote her autobiography for her actually died as well. I think it said, or no, he didn't die. He went. He died financially. He went bankrupt.
and she did that all before the age of 41 too, because it says that she moved to California and snookered some other guy over here, and then she, I guess, found God, and 2 years later she was like dead.
Yeah, I mean, this all happened in about 10 years. And as I was reading Lola, but not thinking of her as a woman, not as a
Transvestite.
he, she, or not as a boy, girl. I could think about the many girls I've dated that, really two come to mind, that were perpetually unhappy and unlucky. And I almost married one of them. And as I look back on that relationship, I could see where all my bridges, all my connections to my friends and my family were getting burned by my being with her. It was so bad that my parents were not going to come to the wedding. So that's how much they hated her. My friends hated her. They told me so, and of course I didn't know about this book, and I argued the point, and it took me a long time to rebuild those bridges with my friends as well as my family. And I know for a fact that if I would have not broken off that marriage, one of us would be in jail, the other one would be dead. I just don't know which one would be which. Terrible.
And that's the worst. That's the worst. I've had relationships like that. Not many, but I definitely had one that was really bad like that when I was dating. And to the point where I was at this girl's house one day and I heard like a car horn honk, and all of a sudden she just like froze. And it was her ex-boyfriend, who I guess was still her current boyfriend. But I didn't know. And he came to the door, and I heard, them arguing or something like that. And all of a sudden I heard, "I'm going to kill that cracker." And this guy busts through the door. We went at it. We ended up getting in a fight, and the guy turned his back on me. I picked up a chair and I was going to swing it at him. And I kind of like lost my nerve because I just felt like I was like in a pair of shorts. Like I did not expect this to happen. I was ready to get romantic with this girl, and here comes this guy busting through trying to kill me. And so I took the chair and this actually that happened after he couldn't outbox me, right? But he tackled me on the ground. This is before my jiu-jitsu days. And I remember my kung fu teacher saying, if you ever get tackled and you get down and someone's trying to choke you, bite them. So that's what I did. I grabbed his bicep and I bit this guy so freaking hard, man. It was like The Walking Dead. And he jumped up off me. She was trying to call 911. That's when he turned his back. I grabbed a chair, and instead of swinging at him, I just kind of threw it at him. Well, he picked it up and swung it at me. I raised my hand up to block it, and it shattered my hand. It broke my hand. So needless to say, I said, all right, I'm done. I ran next door, called the cops, and told my mom that I got my hand broken in a paddleball accident because I didn't want to tell her that it was over that girl, because she didn't like the girl to begin with. So I feel your pain, man.
You broke up with her, didn't see her again probably after that, right? You learned your lesson?
No. No, I did not. I dragged it on for a while. I became I remember there was an Offspring song, and every time I hear it, is like, she would show up like at 2 a.m. ready to go, and you're just like, evil dick wins again. And it was, it took a little while before I finally just said, you know what, I'm done with this.
I mean, with the girl I almost married, I knew it wasn't right. And I kept on just saying, I just kept on moving forward with it until the very end. And then I called it off, and we were living together. And in Georgia, where we lived, if you lived together 1 year, that was considered to be common law marriage. So it cost me It cost me about $14,000 to get out of that relationship. Best $14,000 I ever spent. But I remember my dad flew up to help me. We rented a U-Haul truck, and I literally moved out of that apartment in plastic bags. I mean, and there's actually a story to this, is that she told me that she had filed a what's it called when you're
restraining order.
A restraining order. Thank you. She told me she filed a restraining order on me, and I thought, why is she filing a restraining order on me when she's the one who's violent? This girl actually told me once, she said, I wish you would just hit me so I know you care. I was like, you have some serious problems. I'm not going to hit you. And I love you, but you need to get some help. And if you're not going to get help, I've got to go. And she did want help and said I was not accepting her, but broke up. She said she filed a restraining order on me. So I filed one on her, and when the officer went to serve her that order, she answered the door, and they asked if she was there, and she said no, she wasn't. She lied to the officer. So my dad and I had went to the sheriff's office to check on the delivery of the order, and they said, oh yeah, it's been delivered, but she wasn't home, and the officer who served the warrant was right there. And I said, does she look, she should be home. Does she look like this? And I had a photocopy of her driver's license. And he looked at it and goes, yeah, that's the girl. And he just went right out the door, went and arrested her for obstruction of justice. And so, I mean, they went back to go get her. And she really would not let them in. They ended up knocking the door in and taking her by force. And I saw that as my opportunity to have the van and everything. And I loaded up my stuff as quick as I could get and go. And I got the hell out of there.
Karma's a bitch, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's just, it's something I never, ever forgot. And it made me very thankful for the wife that I have now. Who is nothing like that girl that I almost married. It makes me appreciate my wife so much more. But at the time, I think I thought I could help her, and I thought it would be okay. She had some good qualities. She had great legs, but you can't build a marriage on that. And
yeah,
I'm glad I got out.
I always see that was my downfall. I always, I was like, yeah, this chick looks good. And, she still, shows up and wants to, have some fun. And, it's hard to say no sometimes, especially when you're a young guy. And maybe my confidence was not up to where it should have been, especially after how she kind of screwed me around. And you fall for it. You become a sucker. But, eventually you grow out of that and you become a man and you say, no, if you can't respect me, then you move on.
Yeah, I agree. So when you look at this chapter, it says, infection, avoid the unhappy and unlucky. And so if you're going to continue on with these people who are unhappy and unlucky, you want to avoid infection, and you might want to wrap that rascal. Use some type of protection, because when you get to the keys of power, it says those misfortunates among us who have been brought down by circumstances beyond their control deserve all the help and sympathy we can give them. But there are others who are not born to misfortune or unhappiness, but who draw it upon themselves by their destructive actions and unsettling effect on others. It would be a great thing if we could raise them up, change their patterns, but more often than not, it is their patterns that end up getting inside and changing us. The reason is simple. Humans are extremely susceptible to the moods, emotions, and even the ways of thinking of those who are around, thinking of those with whom they spend their time. So I think that what we need to walk away from is, recognize that people do influence us, who we hang out with, and who we consider to be our friends. That affects our view of the world, what we see as possibilities, likeliness, what's real, what's not real. I mean, our friends influence us.
Yeah, they say you are the combination of the 5 closest friends that you hang around with, and that's what my wife always says, that that's why we're broke, because all our friends are broke. We're not really broke, but we're not wealthy by any means, other than by the great relationships that we have and the friendships that we have. Those I couldn't put a price tag on, but it does say that you should associate with people that you want to be more like, and try to stay away from the ones that are drinking and doing drugs and are constantly pulling you down or unhappy with their lives.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't mean to put anyone off by saying drinking or do drugs, but someone that's in a cycle of addiction or something that just can't get their act together and needs treatment or something before they can actually have a meaningful relationship with you. Don't be an enabler. Don't enable them to keep on keeping their cycle of
and influencing you in the process.
The codependent, right? That's what they call that behavior.
Yeah, I believe so. The next line on the next paragraph of that, I think, really touches what you just said, Tommy. The incurably unhappy and unstable have a particularly strong infecting power because their characters and emotions are so intense. They often present themselves as victims, making it difficult at first to see their miseries as self-inflicted. Before you realize the real nature of their problems, you have been infected by them. I think that's really powerful, and it also goes on to say the people you associate with are critical. The risk of associating with infectors is that you will waste valuable time and energy trying to free yourself. In my case, I spent over 14 grand trying to get out of that relationship, and it was money well spent. And I was much younger. There were no children involved. Even though we weren't married, it was almost like I was. It was like a pseudo divorce. And if I would have just avoided her and listened to what my friends said, I could have probably kept many friendships, not spent that money, and not wasted my time and energy in the process. It really threw my life for a loop.
I used to, when I left one of my jobs and went and took another job, partially because one of the guys I hung around all the time was very negative. Everything he would say was, and not everything. I mean, he's a good guy, but there was a dark side to him, and that dark side would just creep in, and it would be so negative, and he would be, he made racist jokes, and he wasn't a white guy, but he made, stereotypical comments that just, it started to bother me, and I was like, I don't want to be around the negativity all the time, and I remember he would cuss so much, and I was like, hey man, we had a pot of, a jar that we would throw $1 into every time that we cussed. We tried to make the whole department get in on it. And, sometimes he'd just come in and be like, he put a whole $10 in, and just be like, I know I'm going to go do it. So, but, it wears on you, and, you can't change people like that. And eventually you just have to get away from them. And when I had an opportunity, I took it, and to get away from it. And it was like a fresh start. It was great.
I find the cussing part of that very interesting, because I don't cuss a lot. I know some people who do. And I've read somewhere saying that people who cuss are more honest. And I think that can possibly be true, but I think there are also people who cuss because they don't know other words to
Right.
use.
They also say it shows ignorance. And that's, you pick up the language patterns of people you hang around with. I notice my wife says things that I say, but I remember when I was in high school, I used to hang around, remember John Raspa? You remember him?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. This kid, he was all right kid, but he would always say dude. And before long, I was saying dude, like all the time. And I was like, why am I saying dude? And I remember I said it in class one day and some girl looks at me and goes, dude. And made me feel like I was, an inch big. And I was like, I'm not saying that word anymore, because it was just, it rubs off you. And same thing when I hung around another one of my friends that used to cuss and used the F word all the time. I found myself using it quite a bit, and it's just inappropriate. It's in certain times. Yeah, I understand. It's,
Yep.
it some ways, sometimes it's the only word you can use to explain your frustration or to get your point across. But to use it in every other word, it just becomes, it's just ugly.
Yeah, I certainly believe it has its place, and there are good reasons to say those words. I remember my dad not liking Geoge Carlin a lot because of his language, and therefore that rubbed off on me. I didn't really care for George Carlin at all until pretty much, I think, after he died. But what changed my opinion about him was I listened to an article on NPR where he was being interviewed, and he was saying that he was a lover of the English language and that he didn't use curse words just to use them. He said he used them for its true meaning, and wanted to kind of be brazen and get people's attention and have them take notice that there are good reasons to use it. I was watching a movie recently with I don't remember the name of it, but Robert De Niro, Michelle Pfeiffer play parents of or they play a mob family.
Mob family. I remember that. Yeah.
And he's he Robert De Niro turned on his mob family, and they put him in the witness protection program. So here the family has to move again because their cover's been blown.
They came to Miami, didn't they?
No, they were in France.
Oh, was it France? I couldn't remember. It's been a long time.
But what was so funny, the son said, I just really love Dad. He's taught me that the word, the F word is one of the most versatile words in our language. It conveys emotion. It conveys, hatred, liking, and, and they use, liking, hatred and liking things, and disgust and wonder, and and he used examples of it. And it was just laden with the F-bomb. But it was so funny because it was so very true. It does convey so many different meanings in our language. So it has its place. And in some jokes, if you lose the curse words, it's not as funny.
I agree. One of the authority of this particular chapter is it's just a short quote, and it says, not real short, but recognize the fortunate so that you may choose their company, and the unfortunate so you may avoid them. Misfortune is usually the crime of folly, and among those who suffer from it, there is no malady more contagious. Never open your door to the least of misfortunes, for if you do, mainly others will follow in its train. Do not die of another's misery. And it's by Battlestar Galactica.
That's funny.
Yes. When I saw that name, that's why I read the quote, because I just wanted to say Battlestar Galactica, because I saw his name. I go, hey, cool, it's Battlestar Galactica. They've done a quote from it.
From 1601, you lived from 1601 to 1658. I don't think his name was Battlestar Galactica.
He was a visionary.
So I think we're coming to the end of this discussion.
Yeah, I think we've said about as much as we can. Don't hang around losers.
But we always talk about the reversal, and this law admits no reversal. Its application is universal. There is nothing to be gained by associating with those who infect you with their misery. There is only power and good fortune to be obtained by associating with the fortunate. Ignore this law at your peril.
You hear that, Linus? Stop hanging out with Charlie Brown. He's bringing you down. He's bringing you down, man. You'll never get that little redhead girl if you hang out with him.
And wear protection if you do.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to A Swift Kick in the Ass podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's content, and we ask you to please leave us a review in iTunes. Also, head over to aswiftkickintheass.com to get a free copy of the Simple Spending Tool.